We're not sure why we have this feeling of emptiness when, by all indications, if you just look at our lives, we have the career, we have the house, we have the really great image, and we seem so put together, and we seem so accomplished, and we seem so like we have it all. Yet there is this gaping black hole that just feels like it wants to swallow us whole. Hi, my name is Vicky. Welcome back to my channel. Today I want to talk about the immigrant daughter syndrome. So for those who aren't familiar, last year there was a TikTok video that blew up like wildfire, and it was about the first daughter syndrome that left a lot of women feeling seen and heard. So for those that have never heard of the first daughter syndrome, it is not a clinical diagnosis, but a popular term for the heavy, often unseen burden placed on the oldest daughter in a family, making her the mini mom responsible for sibling care, emotional labor, and household duties, leading to perfectionism, anxiety, people-pleasing tendencies, and difficulties setting boundaries. Some examples of how that can manifest as an adult can include things like saying, "I got it. Don't worry, let me do this. I'll do it, yes." Trouble saying no to requests, and a deep-seated feeling that they are not allowed to fail. Struggling to distinguish between actual criticisms and their own internalized fear of disappointing others, so that when someone makes a suggestion or a comment, they will overwhelmingly take it as a criticism on themselves, and they may react in anger or depression. Even if you're an only child, first daughter syndrome may still happen, especially if you're a girl, as you may have felt the need to be solely responsible for aging parents or family needs without siblings to share the load. You may also have acted as an emotional outlet or surrogate parents for your own parents at a young age. Of course, men and people that are not first child can experience this as well if they have a parent that has parentified them from a young age. And how does this relate to the immigrant daughter syndrome? Well, in my experience, the immigrant syndrome is first daughter syndrome dialed up to 1,000. This syndrome leads itself to even more type A, perfectionist, hyper-independent, high-strung women. On the outside, we may seem like we got it together. We're always there on time. We're always there with the plans. We're just so focused on getting things done. And things may seem absolutely effortless. Some of us even carry our extra first aid kit around. But on the inside, we're brittle and we are fragile. And how does this happen? Women that came from an immigrant family, especially if they are first-generation immigrant, will face the pressure of being a cultural bridge as well as caretakers within the family. They may have responsibilities such as interpreting, translating, and navigating complex systems. In addition, because we know that our parents made tremendous sacrifices for us, there's an additional expectation to make the family proud or to make something of yourself. Surprise, surprise, I have immigrant daughter syndrome. This is my mom. She was a nurse in China. And this is my dad. He was a professor in China. And this is us in China in the early 1990s. I left China when I was 8 years old. We first went to England and then to Toronto when I was 12. And it was a hard adjustment. I had to learn English. I didn't speak English before I left. I had to leave all of my friends behind and what was familiar. My parents worked a lot. They had to. My dad was learning his PhD in England, while my mom was working multiple jobs to support the family. So from a young age, I was acutely aware of how much they had sacrificed and also the amount of expectations that were placed upon me. I was an only child for the first 16 years of my life, and so everything was placed upon me. The family honor, as you would call it. For myself, there was never a discussion of whether or not I would go to university. It was an unspoken expectation that I would. Of course I would. Why wouldn't I? My dad has a PhD. My mom is a nurse. The next logical step would be for me to get a PhD as well. Either that or become a doctor, accountant, lawyer. One of the big three. Even in Toronto, even when we've gotten a little bit more established, my parents were still too busy working multiple jobs to really take care of the emotional needs of the teenage daughter. Seeing my parents for no more than 5 minutes was a pretty common occurrence, especially on school days. Our form of love and communication was a plate of food left for me when I came back from school. School forms, high school decisions, extracurriculars were all decisions made by me and managed by me. At that time, I was so proud of how independent I was, because that was what my parents said as well. They said Vicky was so good, we didn't have to worry about her. What I hadn't realized was that my independence, or rather hyper-independence, was a trauma response. Hyper-independence is a form of extreme self-reliance, a coping mechanism where individuals refuse help and trust, often stemming from childhood neglect or inconsistent care, because they learned that relying on others is unsafe. And as you grow up, you may pride yourself on being so independent. After all, how many of us were praised for being independent, for being responsible, and never having our parents worry? With the label of being reliable and independent get attached to praises, it's hard to let go of that and see it for what it is, a trauma response. And asking for help, forget about it. We learned to shut our feelings out and neglect our own needs in order to serve others first, because it's all that we've ever known. We know how to play this role that anything else, like asking for help, feels foreign. And it feels like a trap. And as an adult, you may find yourself exhausted, struggling to receive help, feeling guilty for resting, or fearing that love only comes when you are useful. These are not the flaws in your character. These are the scars of roles that you have played, that you were forced to play at an early age. Another thing that comes with immigrant daughter syndrome is the need to be accomplished, to do something, because love feels so conditional. I mean, that was all that we knew. And what happens when love feels conditional? Well, children need unconditional love, trust, and support. They need that to develop a strong sense of self. And this is a form of parental objectification. It is when parents treat their child as an extension of themselves, a tool for their own needs, their own emotional, social, physical needs, or they may focus excessively on the child's appearance or their child's accomplishments rather than seeing them as an individual. Some of these examples may be the parents saying, "My child is so good at XYZ," as a form of bragging. And then people will say, "Oh, well, that's wonderful." And who gets the praise? Not the child, but the parent. Now, I don't want to make this a strictly immigrant thing, because I'm sure many of us have actually experienced this as we were growing up. It just so happens that this form of objectification, or focusing very excessively on one's accomplishment, tends to be something that exists in a lot of immigrant culture. So when parents objectify their children, they deny them this essential foundation. And instead, children may internalize the belief that their worth is determined by their ability to meet parental expectations or fulfill parental needs. We didn't know what unconditional love means, and sometimes even saying that can feel so foreign. Like, what do you mean I am lovable? What do you mean I am perfect and complete? By what basis do you have to say that? Because over here, I feel like I cannot be worthy of love unless I am accomplished, unless I have a PhD, unless I'm making lots of money, unless I see all of these things attached next to my name that tells me, that proves me without a shadow of doubt that I am accomplished and worthy. In the movie Everything Everywhere All at Once, which is a fantastic movie, and I felt so seen as an immigrant woman, Joy put everything on an everything bagel, all of her hopes, her dreams, and it created a black hole inside. And it felt like my existence as well, because I had tried so hard, and I know it's common across a lot of women of immigrant background, because we try to please everybody except ourselves. We never attended to ourselves, so then we're left feeling really hollow and empty on the inside, and we're still not sure why is it that we're unhappy. We're not sure why we have this feeling of emptiness when, by all indications, if you just look at our lives, we have the career, we have the house, we have the really great image, and we seem so put together, and we seem so accomplished, and we seem so like we have it all. Yet there is this gaping black hole that just feels like it wants to swallow us whole. And so the black hole in the Everything Bagel is a metaphor for nihilism and depression. And in spite of that, Joy still wants to connect with her mother, Evelyn, which is why she's hunting her across multiple universes. Spoiler alert. And it mirrors our deep-seated hurt that has persisted through our childhood. A hurt that comes in the form of this question: can I be loved just as I am? Now, as a mother myself, thinking back on that, I would say, of course you are loved. It's just that we didn't know how to express it. And I can see that now, but it still doesn't heal us. So to all of us out there who have immigrant daughter syndrome, I just want to say, you deserve love. You deserve to be cared for, not just counted on. You deserve softness, not just strength. And you deserve relationships where your needs are not seen as burdens. Healing begins when you stop performing for love and start existing as yourself. It starts with the small acts of saying no without guilt, asking for help without apology, and allowing yourself to disappoint people who benefited from your overfunctioning. And as much as we long to hear the words, "We love you just the way you are, and we are sorry that we didn't pay you the proper attention when we were younger," chances are we're probably not going to hear that from our immigrant parents. But as adults, we can now reparentify ourselves, and we can start this healing journey on our own. We can honor the hurt and affirm its existence. It is not weakness to admit that you need help. It is not a flaw of your character, but rather the very existence of your humanity. No one should feel like the world depends on them and that they are not allowed to crack. Healing begins when you stop performing for love and start existing as yourself, your glorious self. It starts with allowing yourself to rest. Well, I hope you enjoyed the video. The intent is not to vilify our parents. Our parents did the best they could. Honestly, I'm very, very grateful for my parents for having done what they did, having made the sacrifices so that I can have a brand new life over here. And I wouldn't have the life I have without their support in their ways. But now that we are aware of our shortcomings and or our patterns of trauma that has really trapped us, it is time that we do something about it. We can heal our own trauma. And I hope that this video was informative. If you like it, please leave a comment. Thank you.